Hey people, it's me again. Anyways, I'm just watching some videos on here, but I was gonna mention about like the whole Thanksgiving weekend, as far as what happened, But it seems like every time when I do a blog about Thanksgiving, it ended up becoming some sort of long-winded blog about something else, and then I just didn't really feel like uploading it all the way up on YouTube anyway. So, although I was gonna basically say about one of the things that is going on with me was that I was over in Laughlin for Thanksgiving, and if any of you have probably been to Laughlin, you'll probably understand what I'm talking about as far as the whole Riverside Casino and then the Aquarius casinos. I went to stay over at the Aquarius Casino, but I had the Thanksgiving dinner at the Riverside Casino because there was more there at the Riverside Casino, and the whole banquet, the whole buffet was a lot cheaper there. And then there was more stuff to do at the Riverside that we watched that video, Puss in Boots, So, anyways, the other thing I was going to talk about, it was about maybe about last week where I heard of some sort of story on some place about PETA getting some more negative publicity than ever, as far as trying to convince the town to change its name from Turkey to Tofurky, and that sort of stuff, as well as all these little other things that they were doing on the past couple months. It makes me think, as far as that goes, that maybe they're not really want anybody to take them that seriously, unless there's some what do I call it, fish calmers. People that basically look so far to the extreme that they actually weaken the whole movement's message, as far as that goes, as far as animal rights. Although everybody's like up for like animal rights, but there's just some sort of people that seem to take it to the extreme in some cases. And I don't know if it's just simply on purpose, just to weaken the whole movement, or something else there. I think that's just what it is. I don't know if anybody had ever saw that episode of American Dad where Haley joined some sort of commune in order to protest building some sort of shopping mall in the forest. And then one of her fellow members in the commune, who was like the leader, was so far as far as being an environmentalist and all that sort of stuff, that he had some sort of grandiose delusion that he was a tree, and that he actually was in a pond. I think in a way that maybe they were kind of showing off like how extreme some of the environmentalists or the vegetarians or vegans could be in some cases. But that goes downright to be, I don't know. But like I kind of pretty much said in some cases, I've already had said this before. It's just people take these kind of things like that so they could have have a meaning to their life as far as that goes. Whether if it was just environmentalism and all this sort of stuff, and then it goes to the extremes. I mean, I seen that one episode of like True Life where they had these people that were like that extreme, and then they had all this natural stuff there to the extreme. It went to the sort of point where I saw like on some, or well, actually, it wasn't really somebody. Not that I actually saw, but it was my mom had told me about this sort of program about that one woman who had this, who took all these natural products, but then they said that she's like only 50 something, and but she looked really old for her age or something. And then there was even one guy who I think it was almost like a downright obsession to almost considered being anorexia. That he was like that way too. Now it goes into some sort of really extremes in some cases, but I was going to mention it so many times over as far as that goes, about how extreme these people could be as far as on the vegan or an animal rights or an environmentalist sort of thing, but then it almost seems to be like maybe it's not about the actual message of environmentalism and animal rights there, if they're kind of doing all these crazy things like that. Is merely more of self-aggrandizement rather than the actual thing itself. It's sort of the whole reason why I tend to harp on fundies sometimes, especially how it was a couple times on YouTube, maybe around last year or the year before or so, that I harped about them, that in some cases it's not really about the religion itself or Christianity there. It's just about self-aggrandizement, because if anybody had ever heard the phrase of "get off the cross, we need the wood," and then that's sort of the same variation of that phrase is "get off the soapbox, we need the wood." The same thing goes hand in hand, because there's just some people that, regardless of whether they're on the left or on the right, could be basically be self-aggrandizers, and that is not really about the whole cause itself. It's just for them to make themselves look good, because deep down they're insecure with themselves. That's just basically how it is with them. Because if someone who is more secure with themselves about these sort of things, sure, they would take these kind of things as well, but they would have to have enough perspective to see whether they're going too far with it. But a lot of these people that were on both sides of the aisle on that, they don't really have enough perspective to see that they're going too far. It's always kind of funny with some people that are like that, There's some people that seem to lack perspective. And I'm just wondering whether it's just the way that they're raised or something like that. It was something that happened to me maybe about I think it was about 10 or 15 years ago. Some, I think I had some sort of run with somebody there at some at some place, and then I remember Mom was saying to me about that about that some kids are just jerks because their parents raised them to be jerks, and in a way, that's basically what happened. That Mom was trying to tell me that I had to kind of go around and deal with certain people like that, rather than just trying to make something of it. But then I think in some ways, I never really wanted to put up with certain people like that, and it's my nature to kind of fight back in some ways, or my nature to kind of throw their shit right back at them. I mean, case point, although I have maybe like done a couple of awful things in the past few years with certain people, that I was just trying to kind of convey something to them that I wasn't gonna put up with their shit, and I was trying to make them understand that they can't really get away with certain things like that. Although I should have mentioned it so many times about it. I shouldn't really mention it so many times about people that were like that on Bear WW or Bear 4-on-1, But although a lot of times there's some kind of drama that just seems to happen unintentionally, and there are some things that are just happen intentionally for that matter. I don't know if I was supposed to head this sort of thing like that, I'm always the one who tends to notice patterns, and I'm always the one that kind of feels that there's always a pattern to certain things. But other times, it's not that I seem to get carried away with it, but other times I think I just kind of make people think that I get carried away with it, or sometimes I just make people think I overreact to certain things. But it's the only way I can get it down to certain people, because I know there's a better way to get through to certain people, but it's the only way that they can learn is that you have to be a little bit more extreme sometimes, but on the other hand, you have to also have enough insight and perspective of certain things. And then there's just some people that are like that they really just don't have enough perspective to see things. So, anyways, even though this always seems to happen to me every time when I do like the video blogs, that somehow it's like my nose starts to run, so excuse me as far as that goes. So, anyways, it's just one of those little things that I have to like learn to deal with people, but it is kind of strange how some people are sometimes, that they have to kind of try to find meaning in certain things. What I'm saying as far as on on a lot of stuff with religion or all that New Age stuff or certain things like that is people are trying to find a way to make everything simplified. Even though the fact is nothing is ever simple in life. You can't really just point, click, and do things like that. And I think that's just why we're having all these sort of problems here today, because we have all this sort of thing with Facebook and MySpace and YouTube, Hulu, and all these other little stuff that where you can basically bring this sort of stuff very easily at some point. And in some ways, people have a hard time trying to deal with all the other stuff that doesn't always come that easy. You know, as far as a lot of things. I mean, not that I kind of wanted to be specific about it, but as far as what I'm saying here is that people tend to look to things as far as like religion, all the New Age stuff, or certain things like that, or science fiction. It's just sort of a way to have their lives centered around. And other people seem to look into these kind of things as far as trying to find something magical or wonderful to kind of deal with the monotony, the uncertainty of everything that's around them. The monotony, the uncertainty, or the chaoticness there. So, I mean, although you could also see it in some people that I kind of know that on YouTube that are like the atheists or the agnostics that at the same time that they don't really believe in all that religious stuff about the Virgin Mary and all this sort of stuff, but yet it could also be into all this sort of stuff with science fiction, whether if it was Star Trek or Star Wars or anime or some other things, because I think it's just everybody as what I mentioned earlier, that people are trying to find these sort of things to make sense of all the chaoticness, the monotony, the uncertainty, and all this sort of stuff in the world, and they seek these kind of things out. I think for me, a lot of times when it comes to stuff is just merely like the placebo effect of religion, of all that New Age stuff and all this sort of things here. But then there are some things that aren't necessarily a placebo thing of that sort, but it's mainly a psychological association to certain things, or how the fact that every culture had like something that associates with certain mythological things, with dragons, and the fact that all the dragons all seem to look the same thing, or all the little things about the days of the week were always the same, fall on the same days, and they all correspond like the same element or the same Roman gods or goddesses or whatnot, So I don't know if there's anything that's really magical of it, or maybe it's just something that we all just seem to think it's more magical, but then when it's really just some sort of psychological connections to certain things. In a way, it was a case of like with Sylvia Browne and all these sort of psychics there. I don't really think that there were actually real psychics there, because some people seem to kind of predict these kind of things like that, but it's merely the fact that maybe they just observe these sort of patterns and sort of things that seem to look like they're psychic when in reality they're not. I don't think if anybody was really psychic, really wants to have all that attention of having people asking them about every little thing. You know, every little thing, even the most trivial things there. And they probably just didn't want to be bothered by the notoriety and then the attention if they were psychic, for that matter, you know. But then there was just some people who are just the shysters of that. You know, they just exploit people for all their vulnerabilities. What if it was just people like Sylvia Brown or like Peter Popoff, for that matter, or Ray Comfort? You know, they probably know that none of that sort of thing was ever real, and that they're just trying to provide some sort of, not that they were ever really trying to provide some sort of surface or something like that. But I don't know if anybody had ever really saw like the show Avatar: The Last Bender, and did anybody ever really seen that episode where they went to that one village in the Earth Kingdom, and where they had what's that one's name, like Aunt Wu, who's supposedly be a psychic or a medium and that sort, who did the whole cloud readings. And the funny thing is that Kitara and Aang were the only ones that basically fell for all that sort of stuff. And even though Sokka, who's not really that bright, seemed to dismiss all that sort of stuff as being a fluke and all. Even though at the end of the episode it was also implied that she doesn't really believe in any of that sort of stuff either, and that is merely that you only believe people, that is only you believe it if you only want to believe these kind of things, you know. That maybe there is no such thing as like predestination and all that sort of stuff, and that, or what some people say is just that there is no real destiny and all that sort of stuff, and merely it's what you make it to be. But merely what, that if you want certain things, you have to kind of make it so yourself, rather than waiting on certain things, for that matter, to have more of a proactive sort of thing. But in a way, I kind of see these kind of patterns and stuff like that, and it's almost like you could get it down to like a science sometimes, but it's not really absolute, and it's never really going to be absolute in some cases, because you find new things there and certain things that kind of come around as twists and turns of the road. Not that it ever should have mattered, but it's interesting to watch about how things seem to develop, or things seem to switch around and all that sort of stuff, you know. Although, in case point, as far as like the other things that was going on in my life there, you know, I mean, here I gotten all basically extremely sentimental about some guy like that, you know. And around that time when I was having some, I guess it could be like a rough patch in a way, but it's like I said before, it's just sometimes what appears to be like a breakup could be just a rough patch as far as that goes. And in a way, And in a way, I feel like maybe I should have seen these sort of things come to me as far as that goes, and at least be a little bit more prepared for that, even if it was just simply some other misunderstanding of some sort, or whether or not of these kind of things, or other times it's just merely just the sharp turn in the road, or whatever it is that simply just makes it become more interesting as it goes, rather than just simply driving on a straight line all the time. And in a way, it kind of gets a little bit boring as far as having a story that just goes in a straight line without some sort of twist and turn with some silly little drama like that. In a way, how the sort of storyline could see if I probably write this sort of thing out like a little storyline there, is that I probably will possibly get back to him in the future, but something else that comes around that messes things up, whether if it's just an ex of mine or an ex of his, or someone that just basically wants to steal me away from him, or vice versa, or some other little misunderstanding of some sort, where if it's like my family doesn't like him, or his family doesn't like him, or my friends don't like him, or his friends don't like me, or something like that, or that he's not entirely 100% ready, or same thing with my end, or whatnot as far as that goes, or any other little possibilities that makes the whole thing complicated. In a way, I probably should have been a little bit more prepared for these kind of things there, It happened as far as like the last one, before Drew, that with Ricky, that as soon as I probably met him, I was hoping that things would probably go fine with him, when I started to do things with Ricky there, but then I had to deal with that one with the actor's jealousy, and then him devising some sort of plan to mess me up by him and his roommates, and kind of continue to talk to me and run around saying that he misses me, and that whole let's just be friends sort of thing, kind of messed me up there as far as that goes. And the fact that it was merely my own hesitation with Ricky, that kind of caused me to like lose him the first time around this time, like 05, I think. And I already managed to stay like friendly with him for a while, then he kind of disappeared from MySpace, and then I lost touch with him. And then it wasn't until probably April of 06 when I met up with him again. And when I met up with him again, I think everything was starting to go a little bit forward with him. I mean, I had a night out with him, but the thing was that I forgot to let Dad know ahead of time, and that caused some sort of silly little drama with him for a while. And then the fact that I attracted some unwanted attention from some guy, that in reality with that one guy, Matt, that I liked him as a friend, definitely, but as far as something beyond that, I wasn't really exactly sure, you know, but he should just realize that there that I was interested in somebody else, namely Ricky there. But I didn't really want to mention it to him there because I was afraid that I was going to hurt his feelings or crack him. Because at the time, I think Matt kind of came off as very needy or clingy around me. And it made me believe that maybe he was just kind of not that real content with his own self-image and all that. And if I basically said something like that, I probably would have cracked him, cracked him emotionally and psychologically, and then I didn't really want to be responsible for that. Although he hadn't going around talking about all that sort of stuff there. But like I said with a lot of these kind of things, that it was kind of hard for me to kind of turn them down nicely. But for some reason he kept insisting, and then I think I just had to kind of blow him off like that, even though it was really just mean of me for that. But I just kind of wanted him to understand that I just didn't feel that way as he kind of felt that way towards me, And I think when I look back at all of it, I see that maybe that he was only interested in me for my body, and that he wasn't really interested in getting to know me as a whole. I think he was just seemingly brushing it with me, seemingly trying to sweet talk me, that sort of thing with Matt, and I think it just had to be done that way, Although I felt a little guilty as far as doing that, but it seemed like that those things were justified because I was only interested in Ricky, and that was the case there. But I kind of blame Matt for messing up that sort of relationship with Ricky as well as Dad there, and that I just wanted them to be out of my way so I can just simply focus all my attention on getting to know Ricky and all of that. And I never really got to know Ricky that well because of it, and that I ended up breaking up with Ricky for like the last time in about 3 years ago. And then the fact that I ended up having like a couple of times where I ended up breaking up with Ricky and then getting back together with him at some point. And a lot of times when that happened, I always assumed that maybe I'm not going to get him back, and then he comes right back. And that happened with me last year with Drew, that I assumed that he wasn't going to come back, and that was it. And then came back. And then only to have like another little problem again. But not that there was ever really a huge problem there, that I kind of, knowing that I know now, that he was just simply stirring the pot with me. But so I would guess I would say that I guess that whole door with him is still open if he wants to be open, with me. And not that I ever really not that I ever have to, but it was kind of one of the cases there. But in some ways, as far as like one of the other crazy drama that I had in the past year. Besides that, was on Bear Forum 1, I think, where I think it was just this older couple around there that was bugging me, and I tried to get them to leave me alone. I had a hard time trying to get them to leave me alone, and I think maybe it took me about another couple of months for them to get into their head, and I think here I kind of started thinking that maybe I might have been a little bit too hard on them, and then I think I just decided maybe I should try to give them a chance, but then, in a way, I think I wanted to schedule something with one of them, and then I canceled at the last minute because either they were just too tired or too drunk or too high or something like that. And then I got upset for that, and I actually did manage to come over to them. I think I had a good time with them, but I think I was just a little bit upset with them for bugging me, and then even when I managed to come over, it seemed like that one of them was just simply just being being a sweet talker and all that, and I think it was just merely he was just only interested in me for my body again, and not really wanting to get to know me as a whole or something like that, but I think I pretty much had to let them down a little bit gently, but who knows. But the other drama that I think I had with somebody, I think it was probably quite recently with Bear WW, because I specifically say on my profile over there that I'm only interested in guys over here as far as anything beyond friendship. And then there was some guy that was from France that was coming off way too strong for me, and although I basically told him politely that I'm not interested, and then I just had to block him the second time he started to chat up with me there. So it also happened to me earlier this year, where I think it was another guy that was from another country that was already coming off way too strong, and I had to go around and explain to him that the most he's gonna get with me is a friend, and that if he's just trying to have something like that, then he should just look somewhere else, But I think I had to go around and say no to him to at least more than once, I think I had to do it politely, and he didn't get there, and I had to do it a little bit mean, and then I think I just had to be a little bit mean, where I told him to fuck off, in really capital letters like that, And then another one, I think the last time I taught him, which was probably about a couple of weeks ago, and they basically told him off that I will never sleep with him, and I think he just got all huffy puffy about it, and so, I don't know what would have been if it was offline, if I offline that part of the thing, he would have just stormed off and been all huffy puffy about it, oh, how dare he, that sort of thing, but then I just think that maybe he was just trying to make something of it, because he obviously knew that I was only interested in guys that were that were local around here for anything beyond friends, or pen pals as far as that goes. And that he was just making some sort of silly little statement or something towards me. And like I said, it's just that long distance relationships aren't really for everybody. They're for some people, and I guess, but then it's just merely. I think there's just some sort of psychological reason for certain people that do that, because it's just merely a matter of picking and choosing certain things they want to do, simply to avoid the whole emotional fallout, So, anyways, here I accidentally dropped my phone on the camera on the desk, So, anyways, as I was saying, here I say that maybe people choose these sort of kind of relationships like that because they're trying to pick and choose to have intimacy and all of that sort of stuff without the emotional fallout. Sort of the same thing with like the whole friends with benefits sort of thing or whatnot, when in reality these kind of things are usually happening. And sure, these kind of things are kind of hard and difficult to deal with, but eventually you find your way to get over it somehow. But there's just some people that will never get over it at some point, but then you have to kind of be careful as far as turning down people. As it was kind of shown like on one episode of Law and Order, like I think it was like during like their last season, where I think there was just some guy that kidnapped this one woman's daughter, all because she turned him down almost 25 years ago. I mean, could you believe that, as far as people holding a grudge against someone just because they rejected them 25 years ago? Sheesh, get over it, And that seemed to happen with me as far as that goes, but I think I've only held it for maybe just a couple of weeks, and then after that, I was like over with some person like that, And although it seemed kind of funny that I should mention that it was probably about like 4 years ago. Even though I'm kind of pretty much over this one guy, but that was, I think all I pretty much just said was like hi and then hey, what's up, and then he kind of blocked me and I got all upset over him, And then I think I was going around ranting and raving about him on LiveJournal, and then I think he was just going around saying something stupid there. But at the same time, I think I basically told one of my friends, and I told another friend about it, and to tell them to pass it along, and then what happened was that guy that I had a drama with moved out of here, and then went back to where he came from, And then I kind of realized when he was on YouTube, when he had some videos on there, and then I kind of realized, wait, why am I getting upset with this guy? This guy's a total loser, but I don't know if he probably had remember like why he wasn't getting anywhere around here, because I basically told one friend or two friends there about him that he was a jerk, and that he's one of those so-called aspiring actor type people, with the whole egos or something, and then that he should be best be avoided, and that it probably spread around enough that he wasn't getting anywhere, but I think the last time I kind of heard from him there, or heard about him, was that he was like living in somewhere like in Salt Lake City somewhere, but then still trying aimlessly as far as that goes, but and then here I was going around probably thinking like, oh, here he was like on not only like YouTube, but I think it was also XTube, and then I kind of wonder like, oh, no wonder why his boyfriend broke up with him, that sort of thing, but the whole attitude, the whole prima donna syndrome of that sort. Not that I ever really should go on a big detail about it, as far as prima donna syndrome, but then there are some guys that are like that tend to be a bit of a prima donna, but I should know. But anyway, here it is. It's like about 45 minutes, that I was kind of like talking about every little thing coming to my mind, I mean, in a way, I did intend to have like a long video here, so anyways, so I'm just probably gonna end this and put this on the YouTube, so anyways, talk to you guys later.